it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualite. My Asexual Life is the place to be for all aspects of education about asexuality. So hit the bell icon after you subscribed right now. So today we're going to be discussing, should you date someone who's not your usual type? So someone who's different from what you'd usually go for typically. And what is the pros and cons of this? So stay tuned. If you don't know who I am, I'm Sandra Bellamy, author of this awesome best-selling Asexual Perspectives book out on Amazon. Let's go and grab your copy. Yes, dating, it can be an absolute minefield, and often we go for the same type of people that we always go for. And unfortunately, if you've had any childhood trauma, you can tend to go for people who are like those type of people that have given you the trauma. Also, this is what I found from my research. But it's hard to imagine, like, why would you go for someone who's given you trauma? So this is supposed to be a subconscious psychological response because you navigate towards what's familiar to you. So it's kind of less scary and it's more, what you're used to. So it provides a false sense of security for you. Obviously, we don't want to be getting into unhealthy relationships, which is going to be toxic for us. And these type of relationships, if they are subconsciously, something we're going to end up in because of our past trauma, then it's going to repeat again and again and again, and it's hard to break the cycle. So one of the ways that you can break the cycle in theory is by going for someone who's not your usual type to what you go for, someone who's not familiar, who's different to what you usually go for. So for example, if you're attracted to a guy who's a bodybuilder, highly charismatic, very, very confident, and that type of guy can be a player, he can be a male chauvinist, he can also be possibly a narcissist. So he could also be very inflated with its ego, so find it hard to say sorry and apologize. And he could very well have a lot of women on the go at once. So you've got to understand that certain traits that you may be attracted to that may be very, very super attractive can often be very toxic in an actual relationship with that person. So it's very difficult in this day and age in 2024, when I'm recording this video now and beyond, for us to discern like where the different and good people are for us and the dating scene, because there are a lot of people that are on dating websites who have avoidant attachment themselves because they have had childhood trauma, for example. There's a lot of people on dating sites now that aren't looking for a committed relationship because no doubt of past experiences, including childhood trauma, might be rejection by the love of their life, might be a really painful breakup, and they just don't want to go through all that again, which is understandable. But the problem with that is the cycle will continue on and on unless that is broken. So unless people understand that a lot of the reason they are the way they are is because of their past, it means they're not going to delve into their past to see if they can fix the problems within themselves in the current moment because of their past situations. This requires a really strong degree of self-reflection, of getting to know yourself really well, of understanding your triggers and your traumas, and of really taking the time to get to know yourself and who you are and how others treated you. There's something that's known in terms of like counseling psychology, where you can be required to forgive the other person, be required to forget, well, not forget your point of view, but forgive and kind of forgive and forget in a way, right? But the problem with this is you diminish your own feelings doing this. This is what you're asked to do straight away, right? Because you cannot kind of forgive someone really unless you process those feelings and the hurts they caused you in the first place. And if you're just saying, oh, okay, I forgive that person, I've moved on, maybe you can do that. But there's a lot of people where in their subconscious mind, they will still be hurt by that event. And if they don't process those emotions, those types of events can happen again and you can get triggered by them in your life and it can send you into a spiral. So it's really important that really you address the situation. A lot of people will say, like, everything's meant to happen for a reason. Do believe that everything's meant to happen for a reason myself, but I don't think that's an excuse for people to treat me badly. And if people's actions are not good towards me, yes, that's on them. It's not on me because I'm not responsible for their actions. But I still have to deal with the cause and effect. I have to deal with what the cause they pushed my way and the effects of that. Does that make sense? You can't ignore your own feelings because otherwise you gaslight yourself. It's about being aware of how people treated you. And there are people who don't treat people very good in the world. And a lot of people have a hard time processing that and understanding that and coming to terms with it, right? But if we actually understood there's always going to be good and bad in the world, there's always going to be light and dark, there's always going to be people that are okay and people that are not okay, people that have selfish motives and people that have love motives, if we can actually understand, accept that, and work through the trauma and the difficulties and the pain head on, and go through those, then I think a lot of the world would be a better place. But unfortunately, we're told to push down our emotions, suppress or repress, forgive and forget, move on without actually dealing with those tough emotions. And then later on in life, in relationships, this can bite us in the bum. So I do think there is justification and pros to being able to try and find someone in the dating scenario which is different to your usual type in that way, right? Because we don't want to be going for someone who'll play out the roles that people in our past played. Unfortunately, you can't stop those types of people being on the dating scene. There's a mass of them. There's a lot of people, like I said, who are avoidant, a lot of people who have had previous traumas in relationships and they've not processed them. And so therefore there's a lot of hurt people on dating sites. We all, or the majority of us, get hurt at some point in relationships. I've got hurt in relationships. I'm sure you've got hurt in relationships. And we do take those things with us, right? And we have to kind of reflect, like, how much were we at fault? How much was the other person at fault? And whilst, like, blaming doesn't actually solve anything as such, you have to see if you were responsible for any of those things or they were responsible and what degree it was. So did you speak up and say that you weren't happy with something, or did you just go along with it pretending or trying to people please that person to pacify them for an easier life, or because you didn't want to have confrontation? Or was it actually dangerous and there's no way you could have even felt safe confronting them? So maybe you should have left that relationship a long time ago, but then you might have been financially tied to them, and the list can go on and on. So we can't beat ourselves up for the past, but we have to look and examine, like, what could we do to prevent anything like that happening in the future? You can't prevent or predict what other people are going to do per se, but you can put things in place. So, for example, I've got my own home now, right? Which I've had for years. I've lived on my own. But years ago, I was tied financially to a guy that was no good for me. But I couldn't get out of that situation because I couldn't afford, or I thought I couldn't afford to move out and live on my own. Eventually, I did because it just got so painful. He was going to leave me anyway. So it's either I move and get a very good, valuable place, one that I can afford, or I'll basically end up with a place I can't afford anyway. So that pushed me to finding my own place, which was the last place I lived at for years before I moved here. And I'm still living on my own, and it's a blessing because it means you've always got a home to come to if there's any issues, and difficulties, and you don't know what's going to turn up in life. You don't know where your future is going to be with that person. They could decide to change and do a U-turn and completely go in opposite direction from what your current trajectory is. And I think that's what's so difficult about relationships is obviously we can't control the other person. We shouldn't want to control the other person. But if you're looking for safety and security within a relationship, you kind of need some stability and you need to know what their plans are for their future to see if you fit into it, if you want a long-term committed relationship. Because if they, in a couple of years, are just going to leave the country or sooner than that, and you are wanting to stay in the country, that's never going to work. That's going to be a recipe for disaster, heartache, and pain. So we always have to be looking like, what that person's future is looking like to them as well as your own, and see if you can, amalgamate your futures together, or if it's going to be too difficult. Another thing is, if you go for someone who's different, you hopefully would obviously get a different experience. This might actually bring more life into you, bring a new trajectory into your life, because maybe they will teach you and show you things that you never knew about, because they are different to your usual types. So they're injecting new knowledge and wisdom and experiences they've had, and even skills into your life, and helping you because of those differences. Like, if you just go for the same type of person all the time, they may only have a certain level of intellect, certain level of, knowledge and experience. But when you go for someone who's different, they'll have a different take on life. They'll have a different perspective, a fresh, new perspective that might actually help you more in your own life, more than those people that you keep kind of repeating and repeatedly going for. So this can be really good. For example, if you have two people with very different cultures, you can open your eyes up to a new world of possibilities that you never thought about before, because you both come from different backgrounds and you have different customs, and you can share that, and it actually might be better than your own culture and background that you come from. You might prefer the other person's, they might prefer yours. I've seen some YouTubers, very beautiful couples, like very so much in love, very healthy relationships, and they come from different countries, but they end up living in one country together. And usually, they bring different flavors and variety to their relationships, which make them more whole. They make them more knowledgeable. They make them more whole and complete, if you know what I mean. They give a better experience, because there's different experiences going on. There's different things you bring to the table. There's different awarenesses, different life experiences, and that can just inject so much more positivity into your life, and things you never felt possible before or thought of before. So they do say variety is the spice of life as well. So obviously, if you're meeting different people different through dating, you could meet a whole load of different people. Obviously, if you want a serious committed relationship, then if you want monogamy, you'll be having one person to be in the relationship with. But you can enjoy the dating process. You can enjoy meeting different types of people that are not your usual type, so that you can see if it's possible that a relationship would work with someone else that you're not so used to, right? And it does give you more options, because if you narrow your options down to a certain type of person, look, or lifestyle, or mannerisms, or intelligence, or financial, you are limiting yourself to that. You aren't observing or taking on board the fact there might be a lot of other good people out there for you, that just have different qualities to what you're used to being with or looking for. So it can give you a lot more scope, it can give you a lot more variety of people, and it can allow different aspects of your life to come into your life, if you know what I mean. So you might end up meeting someone that injects certain types of things into your life that you never thought about before, but is actually quite natural to you. Things you may enjoy doing, but you've never done before. So this can make your life much more enriched, and you can feel a lot more vitality and joy and pleasure, and can open up a whole new world to you, and it can feel so good. And having different experiences that you've never had before will allow you also to see more red flags with other people that don't fit, that aren't good for you, because once you take a step back and have a different experience with different people, you'll then be able to see and kind of assess other situations differently. Does this make sense? So always think, is it good for me to change who I date? Maybe it's change your hair color. Maybe if you're a person that's hell bent on going for someone with a certain height, or someone who's taller than you always, you can actually find out if going for someone shorter than you or the same height as you would actually be really beneficial. I don't care about height. I couldn't care less whether the guy's shorter than me, same height as me, or much taller. My last long-term ex was 6'3", and I'm 5'4.5". So that is much, much taller. Excuse me, I'm just going to drink some water. But I've also been in a relationship with a guy who was the same height as me. And I really don't care about height. And in terms of finances, he doesn't have to be raking in money for me to enjoy being with him. I mean, he needs money to like actually see me. You know what I mean? To a certain extent, he needs to be able to pay to come and see me if we don't live near each other. But I don't need him to have tons of money. I personally am not interested in a guy who's got so much money he doesn't even know what to do with it, or I'm not motivated by money. So I'd much rather be with a guy with a kind heart, you know? Having said that, maybe I should be going for guys who've got more money because they're more ambitious. They're usually very settled in their work. They know what they want more, and they're usually more regulated in their life so that they're more able to have someone else coming into it because it's not so chaotic. So that is a benefit of being with someone who's got more money and is very settled. A lot of dating coaches recommend you do not be with someone who's not got their life purpose yet. They don't know what they're doing. They haven't got a foundation, a solid foundation of a job they absolutely adore and love, right? But there's loads of people these days that are unhappy in their jobs. That's why there's a load of people online who are trying to get people out of their day jobs, if you like, 9 to 5 jobs, because people are unhappy. And I think if you cut out all the people that are unhappy in their job and haven't got a satisfactory job yet, you're going to be cutting out like a lot of the population. So I understand where the dating coaches are coming from, because when someone's on purpose, they're enjoying their job, they're liking their life, they're on point, they're able to be healthier for you because they'll have healthy emotions within themselves. So that is a benefit. So you have to look at it like that, right? So if I come across a guy who's on purpose, who knows what he wants, who's loving his job, he's got the job of his dreams, he's doing whatever hobbies he wants, got friends, he's got everything sorted, but he's just looking for that person to spend the rest of his life with, that's a very good inkling that that person will be good for you, right? Because of those things being settled. But like I said, there are so many people in the world now that are not happy in their jobs. And so therefore, I don't think you should cut every single person off the dating scene and not dating them just because they haven't got their job of their dreams yet. Sometimes it takes years and later in life to find out what your life purpose is. Sometimes it's a journey of discovery. And yes, you could say that being with someone on that journey is not good because it's unstable, they're unsure of themselves, they're insecure maybe, and that isn't a good thing to bring to the relationship. But it depends how they prioritize the relationship. If they give the relationship such high priority because they know what they want in that way, but the job they're not so sure about, I think that's still going to be a good thing because they're going to put a lot of time, energy, and effort into the relationship. There are people that do have everything else that they know that they want in their life. They've got the career they want, the finances they want, friends they want, hobbies and interests, but they don't have the person that will be on their deathbed at the end of the day who's loving them and holding their hand and who's their soulmate. To me, that's priceless. And people can't take money with them when they go. People can't take gym equipment with them when they go, right? The most precious thing and gift in life is true love and soulmateship, right? And being with the person who loves you and you love them back more than anything in the world. And this includes friends as well, right? If you don't have to be in a relationship or date to have an amazing friend and be best friends with someone who's there for you to the end. But this video is about dating. So what are the cons about being with someone who's not your usual type? Well, being with someone who's not your usual type, it might be difficult to communicate with them because you might not know what to talk to them about. It might be difficult to feel attraction for them, or as much attraction, because they're not familiar to you. But this can be a good thing, because if you're usually attracted to bad guys, for example, there can be bad women as well, then you need to get out of that habit. So being with someone unfamiliar can be better for you. But obviously it can cause difficulties with not knowing what to talk about. If you're not that attracted to them, it can make it a lot more harder to date them. And if that attraction doesn't come, then you probably won't continue to date them. it might be safer in terms of emotions to date someone who's not your usual type because you might be less attracted to them, like I said, but that might be a good thing because you're less likely to fall head over heels in love with them quickly, and therefore you can get to know the person more stably, more securely. It can be a better connection, or it can just end in a much better way for you without heartache and pain of someone breaking your heart because they were no good for you. So by going slow and steady and getting to know someone who's not your usual type, it can actually be beneficial. Jonathan, hello. Lots of love to you. But like I said, the cons is like you might not know what to talk to them about if you are not used to being with that type of person. But I think it's good if you can experiment and try someone with a different hair color, for example, different eye color, different physique, different social status. This can be a very good way of getting more people into your dating sphere, if you like, of possibilities for a possible relationship. However, if you feel that you are like cheating the person because you're not really that into them and you just don't feel that spark at all and you don't feel good about being around someone you're not familiar with, it doesn't feel good or comfortable to you physically, for example, then this can be one of the cons. I have recently been connecting with more British guys on dating sites. I've been talking to them and I can form some connection with them. But for me personally, it doesn't feel good like when I talk to Indian guys. In fact, the more I talk to British guys, the more I feel turned off, really, and that I'm not meant to be with a British guy. I'm meant to be with an Indian guy. I realize it's very difficult for me to be with an Indian guy because my culture and my own individuality is very different to Indian culture. And so it might be that I never ever end up with my soulmate who I believe I know from a past life in this life. And that would be really sad, but it does sadden me. It does upset me a lot, actually. And I try with British guys, and like I said, I can form some connection with them, but, it's not the same. It's not the same familiarity as I have with Indian guys, but I've never even had an Indian boyfriend in this life. I've never been in a relationship with an Indian guy. I have had a date with an Indian guy, I've kissed an Indian guy, more than one Indian guy, but I've never actually had an Indian boyfriend. So, it still would be a new experience to have an Indian boyfriend, right? But I don't wanna get involved with an Indian guy and him be my boyfriend unless he wants something long term. And usually their parents arrange them a marriage, so it's no good. It just leads to heartache and pain, which is not good. So I am finding that obviously if you open yourself up to different cultures and different people, like, so I'm opening myself up to British guys again, it gives me more options, but it also makes me not feel good because I feel like, but I still prefer Indian guys. I still prefer the closeness with them. I still prefer the aura. I still prefer the feeling between me and them. It feels much better. So that's been my experience lately. And, obviously I like other different foreign guys as well. So I am open to other foreign guys, but on dating sites, a lot of the other foreign guys, like apart from Pakistani guys, a lot of the other guys that keep liking me are in France, and I can't be with someone in another country. I don't fly on a plane, so that's not practical. So you do have to take into consideration some things. Like if you know for the fact that you come from a family that is very religious, for example, or has a certain cultural background, and there's absolutely no way that you would go against that. You would go against your parents' wishes and choose someone from a different cultural background. And that's kind of cut a lot of that out because you don't want conflicts in a relationship between your family and the person you choose. Having said this, there are some circumstances and times when people will go against their parents' and culture's wishes because it's the only way they'll ever truly be happy. And that might mean separation from their family, and that might mean they disown them, which doesn't, sound very good, but it does happen, unfortunately, for example, in Indian culture and things like that. But there might be something within you that says, hey, I just don't want this. I have to go my own way because I'm fed up of actually not being true to myself and not being with the person I really want to be with. So if you know in your heart of hearts, for example, you're abroad and you don't want to be with someone of your own culture from your own country, then you should move abroad. But move abroad, not don't just think about it, move abroad and get to know the people there, the culture there, to see if you actually like it. Because when someone thinks of something in their head that they like, it doesn't necessarily mean to say that they're gonna actually like it when they get to that stage. It might just be like a fantasy, right? You have to know if you like the reality of it or not. This is why I go to Bollywood parties. This is why I listen to Bollywood music a lot. This is why I get to know different types of Indian guys to see if I'd really like to be with one or if it's just rubbish. But there's a lot of foreign women, for example, Indian women that love British guys. They think British guys are much better, British guys are much nicer. So from my point of view, yes, I am and have been widening my options, especially with younger British guys in their 20s, because I'm not interested in older, but I just feel in a way a bit fake, like I'm, you know what I mean? Like I'm not really wanting this long term. I'm wanting to be with an Indian guy long term. But, there might be a special British guy that comes along that woos my heart and that I really connect with on a deep level. And I don't even want to say it because I can't even say it. So clearly, the thing is we can't con ourselves. And if at the end of the day we really subconsciously and our being believes we're not supposed to be with a certain type of person, then I think we should honor ourselves and our own intuition, our thoughts and feelings and beliefs. And if we feel someone isn't right for us and we are looking for a certain type, then I think we should still honor that, right? But if you want more options, then that means going for someone who's different to your usual type. So you have to bear that in mind. But if you go down the route of going for someone who's not your usual type, sometimes you can find happiness with someone else. Sometimes you can actually find someone who's very different to your type. Like I'm very extroverted, but that would not actually suit me. Probably being with another extrovert. It depends how extroverted they were and how their personality was. But sometimes two extroverts don't work well together. It's better to have an extrovert and an introvert, or an extrovert and an ambivert. Because if two people have got very extroverted personalities, one can overwhelm the other and it can be like a competition which you don't want. Like sometimes it's better if you're loud to have someone who's quieter. So you bring out the like loudness in them and they bring out the quietness and calmness in you, right? So you can have complementaries. People don't have to have exact replicas of themselves. Like I would like a guy to be with me on social media, like snap photographs of me and him, but he doesn't have to be on social media all the time like I am. So I think you have to be thinking like, what are your deal breakers? Obviously, if you don't want children, someone else does. That's no. So think of all the deal breakers, and obviously you can't be in a relationship with someone or date someone if you're that's not going to be suitable for you unless you want to do it temporarily, because that's not going to work. But aside from the deal breakers, what else could you change? Would you be okay with a different hair color? Like I predominantly like short, dark, brown, chestnut hair, right? For example, like Indian hair. But I also do like guys with short, spiky blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm okay with that as well, which is usually a British guy. So I can be with someone a different hair color. I get most attracted to really skinny guys, the guys that other women probably wouldn't be so attracted to, because I'm not into muscly guys, right? But I could be with a guy who has muscles if he loves going to the gym a lot, and that's what makes him really happy. I could part with it or stand it, if you know what I mean. I'll probably end up liking it because it's part of him and his body, and if I love him or like him, then I like that, if you know what I mean. Right? Equally, if there was a guy who was bigger guy, who was a foodie, who loved his food and, had a more larger tummy, as it were, then I could be with someone like that as well if I truly cared about them, liked them, loved them. They'd be like a big teddy bear. So I have got some flexibility. So I think it's important in dating that you do have some flexibility, such as with eye color, hair color, height. Obviously, though, if you've got a real passion for something specific, then you're probably gonna have to try and look for someone like that. Like I can't stand beards, right? I actually got beard repulsion. So for me, that would be no good, getting a guy with a full beard. I might be able to stand just a little bit of stubble on his chin, or maybe a little bit down the sides if his lips were still okay. But it would be more like standing. It wouldn't be like I'm madly passionate about this guy, right? But I couldn't do the full beard because I just can't kiss him. So you kind of got to explore aspects of what you might be able to tolerate, what you can't, and things like that. If you look at a lot of the research and you follow dating advice and channels about healthy relationships and stuff like that, you can actually find that the person who they're in a relationship with isn't the most drop dead gorgeous person in the world to them in terms of looks, but they're their best friend, they're their soulmate, the person they actually feel comfortable around, get on well with. Because a lot of the time we can be attracted to people that make us feel excited and that stir our chemicals up, whether that's in a asexual way if you're asexual, or whether that's a sexual way if you're watching this and you're not asexual, right? It stirs attraction chemicals up. That's why people even get crushes, because of the chemicals they feel for someone. So you might come across someone who feels more steady and reliable and strong and more normal, but that is a good thing because it means you can have a healthy relationship with them, maybe, rather than that, oh, this is so exciting. But exciting sometimes can end up being unpredictable, can end up being unreliable, can end up being an insecure thing. It can end up with your heart broken. So you have to understand that some of these chemical reactions where the attraction's super, super high to the person, between you and that person, or just from you to them, is sometimes a mirror, if you like, for what's not, is a mirror. Maybe mirror is the wrong word to use. Is a cover up, covering the mirror, covering up the reflection of who they truly are, right? Because passion is really good. I think it's important to have it, but it's more important to have stability with that person. You need someone who's going to be reliable for you, who persistently and consistently shows up for you, who cares about your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, who asks about your day, who wants to communicate with you and improve their communication skills, who wants to have you in their life on a consistent basis, who genuinely feels for you when something's not going right in your life, when something's not going well, when you have mental health difficulties or physical difficulties, someone who genuinely cares from their heart. Because that's what you need in life. You need someone there for you, understands you, who cares about you, who loves you. And some people can get this from friends as well. It doesn't have to be that you can only be happy in a dating scenario relationship. I'm talking about dating relationships in this episode. So please think about the things I've said. Think about the pros and cons, but equally, you can't con yourself. If there's someone that you're with, for example, but in your heart of hearts, you don't want to spend the rest of your life with them, and something in your mind's just saying, I really can't spend the rest of my life with this person. I can't be committed to this person. It's not who I want to spend the rest of my life with. Then it's better to not get with that person if you can in the first place, because it's heartbreaking for them, and it's going to be heartbreaking for you to a certain extent. It's better to decide to be on your own and wait for a more suitable person to come along than be in a relationship or dating scenario with the wrong person. But until you have a date with someone, you don't necessarily know that they're the wrong person for you or the right person for you. Sometimes you have to give someone a go that maybe not be your usual type, but who might be a stronger candidate for a longevity relationship with you. Someone who's kind and caring and considerate and loving and loyal with a heart of gold. Maybe they're not like whisking you off for some romantic adventure every single weekend or something. Maybe they're just like sharing their normal day with you. But maybe that feels good to you because it's the stability and security and care and interest and understanding that you actually need. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video with anyone who may benefit from it. And I'll see you soon next video live stream. Lots of love. Take care. Bye.